No one planned the First World War. No nation woke up on a morning in 1914 thinking, "Today, we shall ignite a conflict that will claim 17 million lives." No emperor issued such a command. No general drafted such a scheme. And yet, the war began. It started almost of its own accord, as if Europe were a massive engine that someone had cranked into gear without knowing how to shut it off. Here is the truly strange thing about this history. It didn't happen because anyone wanted a great war. It happened because no one believed it was even possible. And it was precisely that conviction that made it inevitable. To understand how this occurred, you first have to unlearn everything you think you know about the causes of World War I. Because the standard answer, "the Archduke was assassinated and war broke out," is like saying, "the man tripped on a rug and the house burned down." It's technically true, but it's utterly meaningless without understanding why the house was filled with pressurized gas in the first place. By 1914, Europe was exactly that kind of house. On the surface, it was a brilliant era. An industrial boom, telephones, steam engines, electric light. European capitals were experiencing an unprecedented cultural renaissance. Mahler's symphonies played in Vienna. In Paris, cafes buzzed with debates over Impressionism. International trade was flourishing to such an extent that many serious economists argued war between great powers was now impossible, too expensive, too interdependent, too irrational. One famous British author published a book in 1910, mathematically proving that a major war in the modern world would lead to total economic collapse, and therefore, it simply wouldn't happen. 4 years later, that book sat in every library of a scorched Europe. In history, as in mechanics, every detail matters. To keep our project running like a well-oiled machine, and uncovering these hidden pages of the past, please support the channel, like this video, and subscribe. It's the logical next step that, unlike the decisions of 1914, leads only to creation. Thank you for being with us. Here is the first paradox of this story. It was specifically the certainty that war would not happen that allowed politicians to play with fire. Since war was impossible, they could speak more harshly. Since war was impossible, they could push a little harder. Since war was impossible, they didn't have to back down. This is called brinkmanship, and in 1914, everyone was practicing it simultaneously. But beneath this confidence lay another layer, and this is where the real story begins. Over the preceding 20 years, Europe had, almost imperceptibly, turned into a system of counter-tensioned springs, alliances, secret treaties, military obligations written in fine print. Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy on one side, France, Russia, and Britain on the other. Sounds straightforward, right? Two camps, a balance of power, mutual deterrence, everything under control. The problem was that no one knew exactly where the line was, the point at which an ally was obligated to fight. The treaties were drafted with enough ambiguity to allow for interpretation. And in a moment of crisis, interpretation is no longer diplomacy, it's improvisation under extreme pressure. Then came June the 28th, 1914, in Sarajevo. Gavrilo Princip, a young Bosnian nationalist, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. The first attempt that day had already failed. The bomb went off in the wrong place. The motorcade changed its route. Princip, thinking the opportunity was lost, went into a deli to eat a sandwich. At that exact moment, the Archduke's car took a wrong turn and stalled right in front of him as the driver tried to reverse. The distance was less than 2 meters. Princip fired 2 shots. There is your random accident. But this is where it gets interesting. On its own, this incident didn't have to trigger a world war. History had seen assassinations of monarchs and heirs before. In 1900, the King of Italy was killed. In 1901, the American president. In 1912, the Prime Minister of Spain. None of these events caused even a local military conflict. So why did this one? Because Austria-Hungary decided to seize the moment. This is the second turning point that is rarely discussed. The loss of the Archduke was a tragedy, but for a faction of the Austrian leadership, it was an opportunity. Serbia had long been a thorn in Vienna's side, a small but defiant nation dreaming of uniting the South Slavs and, in doing so, dismantling the multi-ethnic empire from within. Now, they had a pretext. Loud, emotional, politically bulletproof. Austria issued an ultimatum to Serbia, so harsh that the British Foreign Secretary, upon reading it, remarked that in 40 years of diplomacy, he had never seen anything like it. The demands were designed to be rejected by any sovereign state. Yet, and few know this, Serbia accepted almost every point. Almost. They declined only one: allowing Austrian investigators to operate on their soil. It was a matter of sovereignty. Austria declared the response unsatisfactory and began to mobilize. And here, the machine began to drive itself. Russia could not allow Austria to crush Serbia. It would be a humiliation, a loss of influence in the Balkans, and the end of its claim as the protector of the Slavic world. Russia began to mobilize, partially, against Austria. But partial mobilization, in the military planning of the time, was a technical fiction. The pre-arranged railway schedules allowed for no half measures. Germany demanded the process stop. Russia did not. Germany declared war on Russia. By treaty, France was now pulled in. Germany, knowing this, decided to strike France first and fast. Through Belgium, where the terrain was easier, Belgium was neutral. This violated international law. Britain, the guarantor of Belgian neutrality, entered the fray. In the 37 days following the events in Sarajevo, every great power in Europe was at war. No one wanted it on this scale. Austria wanted a splendid little war against Serbia. Germany thought it could bully Russia into backing down. Russia couldn't back down without losing face. France couldn't stay out without breaking its word. Britain couldn't stay out without destroying its reputation. Everyone took the next logical step, and every step brought the catastrophe closer. That is the real answer to the question of the accidental error. There wasn't one. There was a system that converted any error into a global conflagration. That fatal incident merely pulled the trigger, but the gun had been loaded, aimed, and cocked long before. It was just waiting for a reason to go off. This is the most haunting lesson of this history. It's not that one person can change the world. It's that when a system is built incorrectly, it doesn't need malice to fail. It only needs a coincidence, a wrong turn, a driver who gets confused at an intersection. The First World War stands as proof that history's worst disasters don't always stem from a will to destroy. Sometimes they come from a collective confidence that everything is under control, from the belief that the system works, from the fact that no one asked the simple question, what happens if something goes wrong? The answer to that question cost 17 million lives.
Click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get notified.